Dinosaurs. Story by Mike Graff. Illustrations by Warwick Bennett. Contents. Chapter 1. Flash Flood. 2. Chapter 2. Return to the Canyon. 6. Chapter 3. A Secret Collection. 11. Chapter 4. Staking a Claim. 14. Chapter 5. String, Shovels and Brushes. 19. Chapter 6. A Top Project. 29. Chapter 1. Flash Flood. "I knew we shouldn't have come down into the canyon," Jody said, her hair soaking. Ben stuck his hand out in the pouring rain. "At least it's not snowing." He shivered and wrapped his arms around his body. Jody and Ben huddled against the side of the cliff, protected from the rain by an overhanging shelf of rock above them. Wind whipped trees about and blew sheets of rain furiously across the canyon. Jody turned to Ben. "We have to be home before dark. We've got miles to ride home." "I know," Ben replied. "I'll go check the sky." He jumped outside. The drenching rain instantly soaked him. The sky was dark grey, but off to the west, the sun peeked out of the clouds. "I think it's going to clear soon," Ben announced, dashing back to shelter. "Let's make a run for it," Jody said. They bolted outside and onto the wet trail, which quickly led them to a raging, muddy stream. "We'll have to jump," Ben concluded. "This is definitely the last time I go exploring with you," Jody replied. They backed up a few steps. 1, 2, 3, jump, they counted together. Thump! Jody made it to the other side, but saw Ben plunge into water up to his waist. Ben tried to grasp a rock at the side of the creek. "I can't hold on," he shouted, as the rapidly flowing water began to pull him downstream. Jody reached behind her and grabbed onto a tree root. She held out her leg. "Grab my foot." Ben took hold of both Jody's feet, but his weight pulled her closer to the torrent. "Hang on!" Jody screamed and gripped the slippery tree root with both hands while Ben struggled towards shallower water. "Okay," he gasped. Ben clambered onto the stream bank, his shoes squelching. He wiped his muddy face, looked at Jody, and grinned. That was fun. Jody rolled her eyes. "Let's go." They headed down the trail toward their mountain bikes and home. Chapter 2. Return to the Canyon. "So you're saying, Jody, that you left your homework in a cave?" Mr. Block questioned his Year 6 student. "Sort of a cave," Jody gulped, looking across at Ben. Ben smiled. Mr. Block looked at both his students. "I'll get my homework back tonight," Jody said. "I promise." At the end of the day, Jody met Ben in front of the school. "Do you want to come with me to the canyon?" Jody asked. "You bet," Ben replied. Jody and Ben hid their bikes in some bushes and walked along the faint path that they followed yesterday. At the top of a hill, they scanned the terrain spread out below. Ben pointed ahead. "There's the cave." Jody and Ben hiked on. Finally, the path cut downward, weaving its way alongside layers of red and green rock. With one last effort, they scurried up the hillside and into the cave. Jody picked up her backpack and unzipped it. "Phew," she sighed, "my books are dry." Slipping her backpack on, she said, "I'd better get back and start that homework." They walked down the trail and came to the stream that Ben had fallen into. Only a trickle of water flowed along the stream's muddy bottom now. It was hard to believe it was the same one as yesterday. Ben jumped into the stream bed and stood exactly where he was almost swept away. "Look how deep the bed is," he exclaimed. Jody climbed down and joined him. "You definitely could have died. You were lucky." They both walked along the stream. Rocks of all sizes and shapes jutted out of the sandy walls. Ben pried a small rock loose from the embankment and started etching in the streambed's smoothed-out wall. Ben and Jody almost died here. Oct. 2002. "Now people will know what happened to us," he announced. "Only until it rains again," Jody said. Chapter 3. A secret collection. There were thousands of rocks in the sandy wall. Jody and Ben started digging. Jody pulled a rock out and looked at it. "This one's just a rock, I think." She tossed it away. Jody paused to inspect a new rock. "Here's another spool," she called out. Ben stepped over. "It definitely looks like an old bone," he said excitedly. Jody continued digging in the same place. "I think I've found another bone." She handed it carefully to Ben. "Wait," Ben said, pulling a plastic bag out of his backpack. "Let's put what we find in here." "Our own little collection," Jody agreed. Ben and Jody put the bones in the plastic bag and searched on. Ben dug frantically into the hillside, then stopped to inspect another rock. "Hey, look, Jody, I think it's part of a jaw," Ben proclaimed. "Look at the tiny black teeth in it." Jody looked at the bone. "You can still see the sharp little grooves in the teeth. This is definitely going into our collection." Ben and Jody dug more. They tossed some rocks away and put the ones that looked like bones into the bag. Ben stopped digging. "You really think these are all bones, Jody? They're certainly shaped like bones." "I wonder how old they are," Ben asked. "Or how big the rat was," Jody added. "Or mouse, or wild dog, or dinosaur." Jody looked at Ben. They both laughed, knowing dinosaurs were huge and these bones were tiny. They looked up at the late afternoon sun. Time had slipped away. "I know where we're coming back tomorrow," Jody beamed. Ben put the bag of bones in his backpack. "Don't tell anyone. This is our secret find." Chapter 4. Staking a Claim. "Now, don't forget, science projects are due next week," Mr. Block reminded his students as they scurried out of the classroom at the end of the day. "There will be no extensions." Jody and Ben stopped on the footpath outside school. "Did you bring everything?" Ben asked. "Yep," Jody replied. "I've got plastic bags, gloves, a hammer and a chisel." "Me too," Ben added. They set off on their now familiar trail, with only a couple of hours of daylight and digging time left. Out of breath after the ride, they arrived at their dig site. Jody and Ben walked up to the small cliff where they had excavated bones the day before. "Phew," Jody exclaimed. "It looks like everything is just as we left it. I was worried that someone else would come along." "Me too," Ben said, relieved. Jody and Ben jumped into the stream bed and quickly started digging. "Shh," Jody hissed. "Did you hear that?" It was the sound of a truck driving up the canyon. "There are no roads up here," Ben whispered. "Except that gated-off area," Jody reminded him. "And that's only a dirt road." Jody and Ben dropped their tools, scrambled up the bank, and hid behind a tree. The truck sounded louder. Soon it came into view. It drove along the bottom of the canyon, following the main creek. Ben and Jody could see two people in the front seat. Whatever was in the back rattled around. "I wonder what's going on," Jody whispered. "What are they doing here?" Jody and Ben watched the truck drive on until it disappeared behind some large boulders. They heard the engine turn off and doors slammed shut. They continued watching, but didn't see anyone. "Let's dig some more before it gets dark," Ben said. They climbed back into the stream bed and resumed their search. The two dug and scratched until dusk. "It's past 5 o'clock already. We'd better get going." Jody and Ben put the bags of bones gently into their backpacks, happy with their discoveries. Jody brushed her hand over their footprints. "I don't want anyone to know we were here," she explained. They climbed out of the creek bed and walked along the trail. When they heard voices, Jody and Ben scurried up a large sandstone rock and peered over the edge. 3 people were putting equipment in the truck, next to a second vehicle. They loaded up picks, shovels, a wheelbarrow, and what looked like a bucket of rocks. "We'll dig again tomorrow," one person said. "This is quite a lucky break." The 3 people got back into the vehicles, turned them around, and drove off. Jody and Ben watched them disappear down the dirt road. Ben jumped up. "Let's go down there and check it out." "We can't," Jody frowned. "Footprints, Ben. It will be too dark to clear our footprints if we go down there now." Chapter 5. String, Shovels and Brushes. So, Jody, have you thought about your science project yet? Mr. Block asked. Yes, Jody replied. I think I'll do it on weather or something. Weather? Mr. Block asked with interest. Thunderstorms and sunshine and stuff. Jody held up a book on weather patterns. Well, Jody, remember it is due on Monday, Mr. Block spoke. At last, the bell rang. Jody and Ben dashed out the door. They raced their bikes the whole trail, their heavy backpacks jingling with equipment. If they are buried in this layer of soil, they've got to be at least 100 million years old, one of the men said. This could be one of the best paleontological finds here in years, the woman said. It's fantastic. It could take us months to get this femur and some of the other large bones out, the man with the shovel added. Jody and Ben looked at each other, amazed. Dinosaurs! They turned to watch the paleontologists. I wonder what else we'll find out here, the woman with the brush said. Another paleontologist let his measuring tape reel back in. We might find baby dinosaur fossils. There might be several different types of dinosaurs here. The paleontologists kept on with their work. Jody and Ben watched them from above. The paleontologist with the brush stood up and called out to the others. Hey, take a look at these tiny bones. The scientists gathered around a rock. The trio seemed very excited about something. Jody and Ben looked at each other, then climbed down the side of the rock and onto the trail. They walked up to the paleontologists. Excuse me, Jody spoke. The scientists quickly turned around. We've found something we'd like you to look at, Ben said. Yeah, Jody added. We were out here the other day during the storm. We found all these tiny rocks or maybe bones. We think they're from a rat or something. At least we thought they were. You two were out here during that storm? One of the men asked. Yes, Ben answered, then looked at Jody. We were just exploring after school. Good timing. The best time to dig is right after a storm, the other said. The rain washes away the topsoil and the bones are revealed. Can we see the bones? The woman asked. Sure, Jody answered, but some are at home. This is our 4th day out here. Jody and Ben led the paleontologists up to the gully, then down into the stream bed. Ben took a handful of tiny rocks from their collection and showed them to the paleontologists. They passed them around. Where did you find these? One asked. It's unbelievable how tiny they are, another added, and in such good condition. They may be embryonic. I wonder if there are any eggshell fragments around, the third person said. Ben pointed to the stream wall. We've been pulling all of these out of here. Do you realise what they actually are? One of the scientists asked. Ben and Jody shrugged their shoulders. We thought they were from a rat or something, Jody replied. Not at all, a paleontologist explained. Quite likely they are baby Dryosaurus bones. When fully grown, they were about 1.5 metres tall and about 3 metres long. They looked a bit like birds with a small head, the scientist went on, and had grinding teeth for eating plants. We just pulled a nearly complete Dryosaurus skull from the ground yesterday. We hope there may be other sorts of dinosaurs here too. Jody and Ben looked at each other, their eyes wide. We've discovered dinosaur bones. It certainly looks that way, one of the scientists said. Can we see the rest of your collection? Sure, Jody and Ben answered.